Computer. Welcome, everybody. Nice to see so many faces here, friends, old and new. That's not a good way to put it. Friends that we've seen for a long time and new people who are just coming in. We will start in just a few minutes. Debbie's warming this up.
I'll put it in. I put it in chat, but I'll say it again. If you have any questions, feel free to stick it in the chat, and we'll get to them if we have time. That we are going to end promptly at 8:30 tonight. And also, if you could try to keep the public chat on topic, that would be fantastic. You can message individual people by clicking the drop down in the chat box and selecting the person you want to talk to if you want to say hi to people.
Also, if you have a technical question, you can put that in there. And we're very grateful to Gail Turman, who is our technical advisor for these Zoominars. So it is 7:30.
So we will be recording this, by the way, and it will go presumably somewhere.
Yep. So welcome everybody to another Zamir Chorale of Boston Zoominar. Nice to see you all. And our guest presenter tonight is Debbie Katchko-Gray. When I knew her, she was just Debbie Katchko. She is a fourth-generation cantor, and many of you recognize, of course, the famous Katchko name. She is the second to serve a conservative congregation. Congregation Shir Shalom in Ridgefield has been her spiritual home since 1999. Debbie founded the Women Cantors Network in 1982, which is a national organization which has now 300 members, and her archives are housed in the National Museum of American Jewish History as well as the American Jewish Archives. She's the first recipient of the Debbie Friedman Miriam Award given at the Miriam's Table annual Women's Seder event last year. When she was a student at Boston University, she studied with Professor Elie Wiesel, Zichrono Livracha, and that's, she says, what convinced her that continuing in her family tradition of the cantorate was the best response for Jewish survival. And perhaps most importantly, Debbie is an alumna of the Zamir Chorale of Boston. So Debbie, welcome back to the Zamir family, and I will hand this over to you.
Thank you so much. Do I need to unmute or am I unmuted?
We can hear you, but keep it loud. Keep it loud.
Keeping it loud and proud.
Okay.
It's an honor to be here, and a special thank you to Josh Jacobson from Boston Zamir. I will say that it was an amazing exposure to Jewish music when I sang with the Boston Zamir Chorale. It introduced a world of music that I really had not been exposed to, and that was a tremendous gift to me. So thank you so much. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. This is something that Elie Wiesel wrote at the beginning of a book, Music from the Holocaust. These are his words. In Cheder long, long ago, we learned, and then Moses sang. And so Moses, our teacher, and the children of Israel, while standing by the sea, began to sing. Songs of joy, songs of sorrow, songs of mourning. The expression of the soul of our people is in their song. More correctly, is their song. Not because it is an obligation to cry, but because it is a duty to sing, we sing. Because this is the way they taught us in Cheder. V'az yashir Moshe, in the future tense, meaning not then did Moses sing, but then shall he sing. The secret of the Jewish song is found in this. Thanks to it, the past is tied to the future. The ordinary weekday with Shabbat, Kaddish with hope. If Jews amid collapsing buildings sang out their sorrow and their stubbornness, can we allow ourselves to be deaf to their song? It all began for me at his very first class, September 1976. So many students wanted to take his class, he had to narrow it down. And to do so, he asked us to write on a 3x5 note card why we wanted to take his class. Remember, the idea of a selection was incredibly painful for Professor Wiesel. He didn't like the idea of doing it at all. But because there were fire codes, he had to limit the amount of students that wanted to be in the class. And it was packed that day. I wrote something like this. I'm from a family of Cantors, and I want to learn more about those left behind in Europe during the Holocaust. I want to teach Jewish children about our history and inspire them to care about being Jewish. At the time, I had no idea I could even be a Cantor, so that wasn't part of this. Elie Wiesel took me aside and said, "My door will always be open to you." And he was a bit of a rebel, like me, and he disregarded a few rules. So I could sit in on any class, and I could sit in on dissertations, master's thesis, graduate level classes. I took every class he offered. I basically majored in Elie Wiesel. But none of this really would have been possible without the cooperation and support of his wonderful administrator, assistant, manager, helper, Martha Hauptman. And I'm so thrilled that she's here with us today. She's going to be sharing some of her memories of this wonderful sing-along from her home in North Carolina. His very first class was the only one he taught specifically on the Holocaust. I learned this from his archivist, Joel Rappel. It was very difficult material to process. And one class I remember so well, a girl started crying and had to leave the room. She was so overwhelmed with the evil he faced, and yet he remained so human, so compassionate and loving. How was that possible? Ariel Berger wrote about that scene in his book, Lessons from Elie Wiesel's Classroom. It's very interesting to note that this class had no paper trail, although Martha handed over all her well-organized papers and files. Somehow at the BU library, some things went missing. And so this lovely archivist drove to Ridgefield, Connecticut from Boston to retrieve my notes and boxes of memorabilia related to Professor Wiesel. Given the latest devastating statistics on the ignorance about the Holocaust, I hope to share these notes and much more in a book one day. Certainly essays and talks like this can help. I've written dozens and dozens of essays from classes and lectures and have many more to complete. There really aren't enough hours in a day, but I'm going to try to complete this overwhelming task. We're here to hear the authentic voice of Elie Wiesel, to hear his musical side and the songs he loved from his childhood. How did this special sing-along come about? I have my memories, but I'd like you to hear from the woman who thought of this opportunity to share songs while we were sitting on the floor of his office after an exhausting 3-day academic symposium on the life and impact of Elie Wiesel for his 70th birthday in 1998. Martha Hauptman was his dedicated assistant, administrator, and lifeline to students like me, to him, but also she was the lifeline for world leaders, diplomats, and scholars for 27 years. Martha Hauptman love to hear how you came about this idea of the sing-along. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to see you.
It's wonderful to be here. Hi, Josh. Well, this symposium had the likes of Saul Bellow, Cynthia Ozick, great speakers. And I decided, I had worked for him for I started working for him in 1976. So at this point, I knew how much he loved music. And I thought we should have some intimate, personal touch to this celebration. And I invited some favorite students, favorite friends, colleagues for a small private surprise party in the office. So when he came into the office from the symposium, you will hear us, I think you will hear us singing Yom HaShoah to him, the whole group surrounding him. What he didn't know is we were hoping that he would join us in a sing-along. And there was not much prompting needed because he started singing with us. And we had Debbie with her traveling guitar, and Ricky Lippitz, who was also a Zamir alum and a cantor, and other students who could harmonize. And fortunately, I had no idea that Debbie was prepared to do this, but she recorded the session. And I think Elie enjoyed our little soiree at least as much, maybe more than the prestigious speakers who had addressed the large crowd, thousands people preceding this. And in response to our voices rising, Professor Irving Abramson, who's a biographer of Wiesel and also a collector of some of his writings, he was visiting from Chicago for this conference, and he said, Boston University will never be the same as these sounds of music floated into the hallway of the School of Theology. I think those of us who were there felt that we had experienced something extraordinary, and you will hear some of it soon. So that was it. I just wanted it to be a more personal birthday than the big symposium. And we were very lucky to have Debbie with her guitar.
And Ricky with her little tape recorder. Thank you so much. So this is my recollection, which is obviously very similar to Martha, but I just want you to get a little sense of how I felt during it. So this special 70th birthday symposium that Martha set up included some very special friends. Cantor Ricky Lippitz, who was just Ricky Lippitz at the time, Ariel Berger, who's written a book, Lessons from Elie Wiesel's Classroom, and lectures all over the world about lessons from Elie Wiesel, and also with Elie Wiesel has begun something called the Witness Institute to transmit the lessons and teachings of Elie Wiesel through wonderful scholars and students, and they have a wonderful plan. Professor Alan Rosen, who communicates regularly from Jerusalem, who's written many books on Elie Wiesel and always remembers special times when we should say a prayer or do a mitzvah in memory of Professor Wiesel or his parents. Alan keeps us all on top of remembering in a very holy way. And Rabbi Nehemiah Poland, who to me just speaks pearls and has such a magical way of speaking and teaching. And I'm going to share a few of his pearls of wisdom, which I find so inspiring. So these special people and writers, teachers, students, we were sitting on the floor. Nobody wanted it to end. The spirit and love in the room was infectious. We all felt like we were part of a really holy moment. And at one point, Rabbi Nehemiah Poland said this, and you'll hear it in the recording. We were singing a song with Professor Wiesel that he was teaching us about the Baal Shem Tov. And at the end of it, you can hear Rabbi Nehemiah Poland saying, he's outside the door. Our music brought the Baal Shem Tov right there. When we began, Professor Wiesel was in his office. after we sang him happy birthday, I think he might have had a little bit of something to do, but I started singing some Yiddish songs, and one of them was a Big Zint, which was my very special solo with the Boston Zamir Chorale. Thank you, Josh. That gave me a lot of confidence. And then I sang Rozenges mit Mandlin and A Brivele der Mamen. And after that song, Professor Wiesel walked in and he said, you could wipe the floor with the tears from that song. And he sat down and he started sharing some of his beautiful music. And the way I love to describe this music is the way Rabbi Nehemiah Poland described it in a class that I attended. Every year I would go back and sit in on a class, and Rabbi Nehemiah Poland was discussing Hasidic music. And the way he described it, it almost can make you weep. And there's a lot of beautiful music out there, and I don't want to sound like an old fogey, but they don't write music like this. I see Jeff Klepper and his Shalom Rav, which is traditional magnificence. You know, I hear some new stuff and it's like, it's okay, but if it doesn't move you, I want to be moved. I want to be changed. I want to feel something. I don't want to just hear 3 chords and hear words that are thrown into a melody and really have no relationship to the music. I want the music and the words to work together. Word painting, that's what my grandfather was known for, taking the meaning of the prayer and elevating it through music. So this is what Rabbi Poland said when he described the music that Elie Wiesel shared with us. He said, when I hear Hasidic music today, I hear the amplification, dynamism, a pride of survival, and a pride in rebuilding. However, something very precious is lost when you hear the pre-war Hasidic music. One hears nobility, sublimity, gentle, quiet, understated grace. Nobility, sublimity, gentle, quiet, understated grace. That's what I think you're going to hear and sing along. That afternoon, we felt the true neshama of our beloved teacher, Elie Wiesel. The rare recording, which I have to thank Ricky Lippitz for having the foresight to bring that little cassette recorder, is something very precious. 10 years later, I was honored to present the recording, which I brought into a studio so it could be remastered and put on a CD. And now the tracks are on my website, and I'm happy to share it with anyone. But in 2008, I presented this recording to Professor Wiesel for his 80th symposium at a private dinner. And we sang some of these same songs. Some people said after the sing-along, this is the highlight of my life. And I've never seen Wiesel sing like that. And I will never forget this all my life. So I'm going to stop speaking because I could say more, but I don't want to say too much more. I really want us to delve into the music. I am assuming just about everybody here likes to sing or appreciates music or is part of the Zamir Chorale family. And I have the words to the songs that are going to be screen shared. Thank you so much. And we're going to begin with the song Tzave. Tzave is a very simple song, but it's incredibly powerful. Only God is king. May he order that Israel be redeemed. Only we can be redeemed by God. Imagine singing this song during the war, during the Holocaust. What kind of faith did you have to have? What kind of inner strength that you could pray that you would be saved by God, not to lose your faith? And Wiesel often spoke about his struggle with God, but he has faith, and his faith is something very precious. So Tzave, you can hear the beautiful melody, and hopefully you can sing along. Yeshua Yaakov. Tzarech, 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 tzarech Yeshua Yaakov. Tzarech, 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 tzarech Yeshua Yaakov. Tzarech, 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 tzarech Yeshua Yaakov. Precious. The next song is incredible, from Kosev bis Kitev. From between Kosev and Kitev, the Baal Shem Tov would be wandering. And what did he do? What did he find there? I love how Wiesel added his own little chorus of Oy vey revenue, 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 oy vey revenue, 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 oy vey revenue. That's not found in any music. That's just came from Wiesel. And he also added a verse that I didn't find in any folk song book. He added between Kosev and Kitev, and actually he reversed them. We don't care. From Kisev and Kosev, there's a shtibula, there's a little shul. And what did the Baal Shem Tov do? He was davening in that shul. So beautiful. I love the three verses that he sang. This is from memory. The first one was Fun Kosev, he found a little forest, and in the forest, I had no idea that Yiddish had the word for meditate. Oif his boididus is giganen. He was meditating in the forest. So let's begin, and you might need to show more of the verses because they're, he didn't necessarily do it in order. So we'll start with Little Forest, and then go to Little Stream, and then Little Shul, if that's possible.
His Bottle ist gegangen, und der Bauschen ist in his Bottle ist gegangen.
He's teaching this to us. We didn't know this.
Zwischen Kissen Kosse dieser Heiche Pfarrer. Dieser Heiche Pfarrer. Der Bauschen ist Freuden sich gegangen. Der Bauschen
He immersed himself.
ist Freuden sich gegangen. Zwischen Kiffel und Kosse dieser Stiefel verraten. Dieser die sich dannen gegangen. Wunderbar schön, wunderbar schön, ist sich dannen gegangen.
He's outside the door. I love that. Oh, and the next song we did, there must have been a tiny lull because I started singing this Yaribon, which I love. I always used to sing with my father in the car. And I feel kind of bad because while I was singing it, I could tell that Professor Wiesel wanted to insert something. And I think I was kind of caught up in it and I might not have noticed. But what he wanted to add was, Oy tata zisa melech, melech malchaya. And I realized it afterwards that he was adding that. And then many years later, I met a cousin, which was a miracle. He was a Holocaust survivor and a cantor in LA, Cantor Leopold Sneer of blessed memory. And he sang the Yaribon exactly the way Elie Wiesel did. Unto Malka, oy tata zisa melech. Oh, Father, sweet King. Such beautiful words. And this was a tradition taken from Eastern Europe. So we sang it. He tried to insert that. And now whenever I sing it, I always put that in. But right after we sang it, he went into this very magical space of remembering a Vishnitzer melody for Yaribon the way he knew growing up. So we're going to listen to both, one right after the other. It's kind of short. Then he goes into the Vishnitzer one, which is going to come up right next.
That is also the chance.
Sing the chorus again. Then we have it.
Yaribon alam heyol maya antu malka melech malchaya oy oy peit gebur melech leachvaya shifa
Oh, so beautiful. Now the next the next song, he always said that this was his favorite song. And at the end of this recording, I love the way Professor Wiesel says, "That's the most beautiful song. Ach, that's the most beautiful song. Ach," I love that. And whenever I sing Ani Ma'amin, and the next 2 nights we're in the period of remembering the Holocaust. We have Yom HaShoah events, and thank you for bringing me to begin these remembrances. Ani Ma'amin is always sung as a declaration of faith. And I love the way Elie Wiesel sings it and the way he begins it. And I believe you can combine both. You can begin with the Elie Wiesel version and then go into the Ani Ma'amin that people can sing. When you hear him sing it, it's incredible. You hear the faith, you think about what he's lived through and the way he sings it and the way he believes these words. It's incredible. So here's Elie Wiesel singing his.
That you want that have been forgotten for many years.
That's the most beautiful song. Ach, love that. Well, I think this would be a good time to hear from my friend, Cantor Ricky Lippitz, one of the pioneer graduated conservative cantors, the 2 first graduates of the Jewish Theological Seminary. And Ricky has always been so modest and humble about her impact, but surely she's a mentor and an incredible role model to so many. And I'm sure that some of her very deep wisdom was inspired by the many years studying also with Professor Wiesel. So Cantor Ricky Lippitz, thank you so much. And I know you just had your COVID shot, so we are so grateful. I hope you don't feel too bad, but if you feel a little bad, that's good. It's working. So thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. It's incredible to every single time I hear this, and both Debbie and I have been listening to this now for more than 20 years. It just sends me. But what I want to say to my fellow singers here is that you can hear what Debbie and I heard. You can hear the neshama in a person's voice. You can hear, for all the ways in which you might have experienced Professor Wiesel as a speaker, as a courageous ethical leader or world leader, there's an intimacy to this moment that none of us could have ever imagined. And when Debbie, when I saw that Debbie was going to bring this program, what made me so excited was that she and I could share with you, because you are singers, because you are artists, because your neshamot are also in your voices. You can hear what we heard, and we can share this part of our teacher with you in a way that that is difficult to share otherwise. One of the things that you may have heard is how joyful Elie Wiesel was as a person. He took the world stage most often to protest things, injustices, so that was the side that probably was known best. And of course he was brought out for all Holocaust things, but his core, as Debbie would attest and Martha knows so well, his core was so joyous, despite everything he had lived through. And when he sang, I remember feeling then, and ever since, any time we have heard him sing, that he shed all that other stuff. He just became his own essence. And I think we all know that about ourselves. There's a way in which we sing that shows our essence to the people we love the most. There's a way in which Josh shapes our song that brings out the inner beauty and inner intimacy of whatever that composer intended. That's the magic we make in Zamir. That's the magic we make as singers. And I just bless Debbie for sharing our teacher, who was so profoundly impactful in our lives, with you in this way, in this very special way that is not going to be out on the radio and is present in the beautiful produced version of his songs that Mati finally talked him into, but not in the same way as this magical moment that Martha, God bless you, created, and the rest of us just like leapt in there and said, and we were all standing. The image I want you to have is we were all standing in a circle with arms around each other, every one of us. It was just like a Hasidic Verbringen. I mean, it was just, that's the sound you're hearing, is the sound of about not even 20 people, maybe about 12, 15 people, arms around one another's shoulders and waists, and just being completely in that moment. So I hope we can create such moments of our own neshamot for the people we love. There's nothing more true than this. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Ricky. You just did it perfectly. And I would like to say that any of these tracks, I share them openly. They're on my website. You can take them, borrow them, use them, share them, sing. They should remain with all of us who love him and love music and love singing. The way Ricky just described the feeling in the room, you're going to hear some of that magic with Mihai Ish. I believe that we all got very emotional when we sang this. This was towards the end of the sing-along. And many of you know what the words of Mihai Ish mean, but there it is. Who's the one who's eager for life, who desires years of good fortune? Guard your tongue from evil, your lips from deceitful speech. Shun evil, do good, seek integrity, and pursue it. Who better than our teacher deserves these beautiful words? And you can hear the fervent singing. It got more and more emotional. I may have to turn the sound down a little bit, but I think I'd love to know that you're all singing this in your own spaces. And that fervor continued with this nigun, which to stop it, but it went on and on and on. It was an amazing time. I would like to just read a little bit before I finish with the last song, and then we might have time for a few questions. Elie Wiesel gave me a direction and a purpose I could not realize on my own. His description of holding a prayer book could bring tears to your eyes. I never understood the privilege of just holding a prayer book, the awesome joy and life-giving force of prayer that only a survivor can understand. Professor Wiesel taught us that to be Jewish was not only a miracle, but a holy responsibility to remember and continue. He would say, light Shabbat candles, not only for yourself, but for one who is no more. Imagine not taking life for granted, not taking Jewish holidays for granted. This message changed my life and continues to inspire me. Professor Wiesel never wanted to waste time. He knew how precious life is. While Professor Wiesel has passed into another holy realm, his lessons and songs remain with us as sparks of divine inspiration. As Rabbi Nehemiah Poland said, nobility, sublimity, a gentle, quiet, understated grace. May his words and songs inspire all of us as we remember him. And I would like to finish with Soll sein Shabbos, as sung by Professor Wiesel. I love the way he added shalom at the end. Joy shalom.
Shabbos ist der ganze Welt. Shabbos soll sein, Shabbos soll sein, Shabbos ist der ganze Welt. Shabbos soll sein, jeden Shabbos. Shabbos soll sein, Shabbos soll sein, Shabbos ist der ganze Welt. Shabbos soll sein, Shabbos soll sein, Shabbos ist der ganze Welt.
Listen to this.
Shalom, 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 soll sein, jeden Shalom. Shalom soll sein, Shalom soll sein, Shalom mit der ganze Welt. Shalom soll sein, Shalom soll sein, Shalom mit der ganze Welt.
I don't want it to end. Elie Wiesel was the Nobel Peace Prize recipient in 1986. His musical legacy is also a legacy of spiritual action and of peace. The Nobel Committee stated, Wiesel is a messenger to mankind. His message is one of peace, atonement, and human dignity. His belief that the forces fighting evil in the world can be victorious is a hard-won belief. I'm so honored that I could share these songs and memories with you. It's getting a little verklempt. And perhaps there's some questions here in the chat. I don't know if someone's going to moderate them, but
I'll moderate the questioning.
Okay, that'd be great.
The question.
I don't have to.
And let me just jump in here to thank Debbie for a wonderful and inspiring presentation. I did put the URL for her website in the chat box for those of you who want to access that and be able to hear these recordings and keep them. And we have just a few minutes for some questions or comments, and then I'd like to hand it over to our manager, Barbara Gaffin, to wrap things up just a few minutes before 8:30. So, Gail.
I haven't seen any questions go by, just a lot of comments about, well, so someone had asked, do you know who composed this melody to Miha Ish? And I think Jeff Klepper, had put an answer into chat, but...
let's see, I have the music, perhaps. No, I don't have the music. Just one of those things we know. Sorry, but I'm sure it's Googleable. Someone wrote it.
It says someone, Leora Fishman had put Miha Ish was on the Pirche album released in 1966, if that helps.
I'm sure it can be found. Thank you. All right.
Lots of thanks.
Thank you. Well, it's my honor. And if there's anything that you want, a copy of the song sheet, or if there's a track that's not on the website that you want, I'm happy to send it to you. It's my joy to share this special moment. I want to thank Ricky and Martha Hauptman, who both brought wonderful history and memories together. It's very special. So thank you for allowing me to share. And it's great to be back a little bit with the Zamir Chorale, and God willing, we'll sing together one day. Again, a big event.
Yes. Good tagline. Thank you again, Debbie. Let me just hand this over quickly to our manager, Barbara Gaffin. You're muted, Barbara. Uncharacteristic.
Okay. All right. So I just want to, Debbie, Martha, Ricky, Josh, extraordinary evening. You can see by the comments from everybody. I just want to let you all know, if you don't know already, how privileged we are at Zamir, that we have an artistic director like Josh, who extraordinary on a regular day. But this year, given the pandemic, we had no money. We had to cut Josh's salary. We couldn't rehearse, we couldn't perform. And instead of sort of like throwing up his hands, Josh went to work creating these extraordinarily wonderful monthly Zoominars. And he insisted that they all be free so that they would be accessible to everybody from wherever you are, no matter if you can Zoom or can't Zoom. You know that we've worked with you to try to make it as easy as possible for you. And our weekly musical messages, I hope that you've all seen those. We have another program coming up, Kolot Nashim, which you'll get an email about very soon. So I just want to thank those of you who have donated. We very much appreciate all sizes of donations. And if you were moved by tonight, we hope that you will donate. You can donate on our website. You can send us a check. Our address is on our website. It's zamir.org. So I want to thank again those of you who have donated, and to those of you who we hope will donate, thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you for your kind words. And what can I say? Zol shon kumen die Geula.
Yeah.
May we go soon from Mitzrayim, from Meitzar to Merchavia, as the spring opens us up, and hopefully as our vaccinations open up the world, hopefully we can sing together again. Singers, audience, all together, because that's what we need. But in the meantime, Debbie, thank you so much for inspiring us with a window to that incredible, incredible moment that you shared with us.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, thank you for joining us. Great to see you.
Thank you. I'd love a copy of the chat because I can't, it's hard to focus and read, but there's so many nice.
Yep.
So many
I saved it.
Oh, thank you.
We will save the chat. We will save the video of this evening and post it. We'll have the link to that from zamir.org.
You guys are great. Thank you so much. God bless all of you. Let's continue to sing and remember.
Josh, I think you've got to end the meeting.
I hate to leave, but